Welcome to the Real Estate Marketing Podcast. My name is Jerome Lewis. I'm your host for today. The Real Estate Marketing Podcast is a podcast where we talk real estate, marketing, tech, business, and leadership. We talk these things for real estate agents, real estate investors, and real estate entrepreneurs. The Real Estate Marketing Podcast is a podcast that has two purposes. Purpose number one, to educate and inform our audience and listeners. Purpose number two, Dale, to highlight you, your business, your service, or your product in a way that provides value to you, including market exposure and content creation. With that, we have a very special guest, Dale Willis. Dale is an experienced real estate developer who has been involved in the industry for more than 35 years. He is the owner and founder of Centra Companies, and since 2011, he has overseen the development of more than 1,500 homes across 50 projects, totaling more than $500 million in project value. He recently established Centra Capital Partners, a real estate syndication company partnering with accredited investors to build wealth through the ground up single-family home development in the Midwest. The Centra team controls the developments from start to finish, leveraging its industry experts to source, entitle, build, and sell each home, which allows them to control assets, control risk, and adhere to the schedule. Dale, I'm excited that you're here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited for the conversation.
Absolutely. Dale, we heard your professional bio. Take us on a journey. Tell us your story and how you got involved in real estate.
Yeah, I've always owned a business. I think I started my first business when I was 7 years old and been involved. And I love making things happen. And I got married in my early 20s and had an opportunity to go work in banking. And so I started doing mortgage banking, knew nothing about the industry, had to learn it as I went, and then did development banking and construction lending. And that's really when I got my first taste. And I loved the creation. And, you know, when you're dealing with real estate, you're making something happen. And I did that for many years and then worked in a home builder and some land development and had an opportunity to go work in retail franchise. And I owned a couple of retail franchises and we had a lot of success. It was a lot of fun. But I realized I love real estate. I mean, if you think about, you know, everybody that's listening to this, you're involved in real estate or want to be involved in real estate. What we do makes a difference in lives. You know, you think about, hopefully your most formative memories are positive ones, but your young memories of where you learned to ride a bike and where you went to the movie theater as a family and you played in the park, we have something to do with that. And that's pretty cool. You know, all of us in real estate, we have something to do with creating those memories. And I love that aspect. So I left retail and said, real estate's where I want to be. That's what I'm going to do. And went back into it and started my own home building company for a period of time. Sold that, went to work for a national developer for several years. And then I started Centra Companies, who we have now. We started that in 2011. And you know, the bio shares a little bit what we do. But real estate's just a lot of fun, and that's how I got in it.
Excellent. Thank you. One of the things that jumped out to me was two things, but one particularly, as you said, you love real estate. What makes you love real estate? Give me two things that make you really love real estate.
You know, the thrill of doing a project, making a project happen. You know, our belief is we want to improve everything we touch, whether that's by an apartment complex that we're going to rehab, or, you know, we're tearing down an old area and rebuilding that and putting homes in, whatever it is. We want to improve everything we touch. And I love going back to projects we did 10 and 15, 20 years ago. You can go and look at these projects and go, I had something to do with that. And that's pretty cool. You know, the trees we plant are tiny, but now they're big, mature trees. And you know, the people, they're living their lives. And I had something to do with that. And I think that's pretty cool. And the other aspect I like is that we're impacting lives. You know, I was in retail and a lot of listeners might not even be familiar with the brand. It was called Radio Shack. And it's just a lot of just gadgets that you just don't need. And we were very successful at it. But if it didn't exist, I made no difference in the world. But real estate, we make a difference in the world. And I think that's pretty neat.
Thank you for sharing that. One of the things I noticed going through your bio, sometimes I get guests on and they get excited about maybe like the business aspect of it. And it's like, go big or go home. I got into multifamily because it's like I want to make some money. But one of the things I noticed with you is like you've been involved in projects where you've helped like single family homes or like lower families, 1,500 homes across 50 projects, totaling more than 500 million. I just would love to hear you talk about, because it could tell you that you care, right, about the families and people getting actually houses as opposed to maybe apartments. Or I don't typically look at an apartment as a long-term stay or anything like that. So I'd just love to hear your insights and hear you talk about like the single family aspects of real estate and how you help change lives and help people.
Right now, the big thing in single family real estate is affordability. We
Mhm.
all know interest rates are significantly higher than they were a few years ago. The cost of the same asset is significantly higher than it was a few years ago, which is making that affordability so much harder. And right now, that's where we see the greatest opportunity. And so we're really focused on affordable housing so we can create that, because exactly what you said, we own apartments and we own rental homes. And what's
Mhm.
interesting is most of the people that are renting apartments from us, their goal, their dream is to own a home one day. Most of the people that are renting homes from us, there's a reason. Most of them don't want to be a homeowner right now. And so you look at these people in the apartments, how are they going to get in these apartments when they couldn't do it 5 years ago? They certainly can't do it today. And so how
Mhm.
do we help them have that dream of having a yard to play with the dog and a street to teach their kids how to ride a bike? And so we're really hyper focused on affordability right now. How do we create mechanisms and tools to make it a little more achievable that those people can actually buy a house? And that's where a lot of our energy, not only are we passionate about it, but that's also where we're seeing the greatest opportunity to make money.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So it's a win-win. You win, they win, families win, and it's good for the economy because, in my experience and what I've been hearing, like there's a housing shortage. We can use more houses out here, and it's not just about the house. It's just about shelter overall and caring about humanity. So I would love to hear you talk about what got you involved in like the apartments and stuff as well, because I don't want to dismiss it completely. That's serving a need in the market as well. So I would like to hear you talk about that too.
It's interesting that the very first apartment complex we got into was really relatively small. I think it was 18 units. And somebody presented it to me and we're like, yeah, let's look at it. And then the seller say, hey, the bank would love to finance this loan. And we're like, oh, okay. And it kind of looked like it was too good to be true. And so we bought this complex really with the intent of let's make some money. It was in bad shape. It needed some remodeling done. And we bought it, and all kinds of stories I could tell and lessons we learned from it. However, we took an asset that had cockroaches all over in this building, and cockroaches are extremely difficult to get rid of, but they were everywhere. And we were able to take a building that was like borderline uninhabitable and clean it up and created a place for 18 people or families to live and be comfortable and not have to worry about safety issues. And it's everybody needs a place to live
Mhm.
somewhere, and that was our first taste. And so from there we ended up buying several more apartment complexes because we were passionate about these people can't maybe afford a house today, but they still need a comfortable place to live. And so how do we help with that? How do we create an environment that's comfortable until they can buy a house?
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So you mentioned apartment complexes, and because I've been around real estate long enough, I know that typically people get involved in real estate. There is there's collaboration involved, and when I say collaboration, I'm thinking about like syndication. And I know I'm not sure, but I'm going to ask you, like, do you have opportunities where people can get involved and invest with you in terms of real estate? You do have those opportunities.
Yeah, interesting question. We actually just started Centra Capital Partners. So the parent is Centra Companies, and we own Centra Homes, which is a home builder, Centra Development, which develops, Lynn Properties, which owns the rental properties, and several. We just started Centra Capital Partners this year, and it started because we have mechanisms. Our employees can buy houses at cost periodically. And we've worked with a bank that'll give them 100% financing because there's already equity built in. And the idea is to help them build wealth and accelerate wealth building. And we discovered that it wasn't going as fast as I would hope for them. And that was the beginning of the brainchild. And we've started Centra Capital Partners to allow them to invest in our projects and accelerate their wealth building. Well, that evolved, and now we've opened it up to anybody that wants to invest. So people can actually invest in a for sale community. We've got 2 opportunities right now that people can invest in these projects that we're developing. We own them, and they can get some of the profit. And we're pretty excited about that because it's giving people to reinvest in communities. A lot of people want to invest in real estate. Well, how do I do that? Where do I begin? And this gives people the opportunity to, we're pros. We know what we're doing. We're really good at it. And now you can invest in real estate. You can start building wealth and be aligned with somebody that's a pro. And so we're really excited about that. We started this in early 2024. And, we've raised quite a bit of capital already and just really giving the people the ability to build wealth alongside what we're doing.
Excellent. Thank you. How can someone learn more about that? Some of our guests come through and they provide opportunities like that. Can you tell us how we can learn more about getting involved, getting invested, or maybe learning about some of your projects?
Our website's a great place. It's Centra Capital Partners, CENTRA Capital Partners. And, it shows a lot of information about us, the history of the company, successes that we've had, plus whatever opportunities are available at that given time. As we fully fund a project, it pulls off, and then we'll add a new project that we're doing because we're constantly doing new projects. And that shows investment opportunity, what kind of returns, some of the risks. And that's just a great resource to learn all kinds of information.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. So one of the things you were mentioning when I mentioned the apartments were you said you could share some stories on lessons learned. So I would love to hear about some of the lessons you learned, some of the ones that stick out most, that are most memorable, whether it's positive or negative, or maybe you can give us a combination, one negative, one positive, on some of the lessons you've learned over your years of experience.
Yeah, people are important. We care about people. We care about their livelihoods. We care about, and we had this project. It was actually the one that I just mentioned. That we went in and it had a lot of cockroaches. I have never dealt with cockroaches. This project was in Minnesota. So it's not one from the South where people are pros and they know this and they know how to take care of it. People in Minnesota really don't know what to do about cockroaches because they're not as common. And so, we went in naively without doing our homework thinking, well, we could solve this, we spray them, they go away, we're all good, right?
That's what I thought I thought it was that simple, but I'm with you here, but it's not.
Yeah, I learned that, these cockroaches, what I knew about cockroaches, I've been to places and the cockroaches are huge. These cockroaches are small that we were dealing with. Mm-hmm. And, they would crawl into the walls through the outlets, covers, and they're into the walls. So you can fumigate an apartment, but it's not killing the cockroaches that are in the walls. They're mm-hmm. not killing the ones that are between the floors. It's not killing the ones that are up hidden in behind the stove. And it's interesting. One of the apartments, most of them were vacant, but there was one, a guy was living in there, really sad situation. He was a hoarder, very little space to live, cockroaches all over the place. And we're like, okay, what do we do? We've got a couple of problems now that we've learned. We own this asset now. Cockroaches aren't as easy to get rid of as we had thought. And we've got this hoarder. If I evict him today, he's going to be homeless tomorrow. Well, that's not the right thing to do. So, what do we do? And, that story was pretty neat. A positive is we ended up using our money. We hired him an attorney to make sure his rights were protected. And we did a lot of research, and we actually found his sister lived in San Francisco. And we got a hold of her, and she said, I've not heard from my brother in years. I worry about him. I didn't know where he was, and we connected him. She flew out, and we worked with her and said, what does he need? And we cleaned his stuff up, make sure there was no cockroaches waiting to take. And she flew him back to San Francisco to live with her and to take care of him because there was a lot of mental health things. I said, leave everything else. We'll just throw it away for you. So that was really a cool success. And then we learned a lot about, do your homework on the assets. Don't make assumptions. Our assumption was cockroaches were easy. Now, luckily in this case, because most of the building was empty, we were able to seal it off, open up the outlets and the switches and open up appliances so we could really kill everything everywhere. And so luckily it wasn't an expensive lesson to learn because it was empty. Now, if this building was mostly full, we would have had a real problem, and it would have been much more expensive. So make sure that you don't make any assumptions. Never make assumptions. And then the positive is take care of people the best you can, because yeah, we want to make a lot of money. We do this because we want to get rich. That's, we all love real estate because there's great upside opportunity. And how do we take care of those people in that journey?
Thank you. And managing I love the fact that you have helped over 1,500. You've built over 1,000 or influenced over 1,500 single family homes. And often people say it's the apartment guys. They'll say go big or go home, but it's like, you got some people that want single family houses out there. I would love to hear you talk about how you manage such a steep task, like 1,500 homes, because it's like that's part of the problem, or part of the reason people go into multifamily is because it's less to deal with and it's less to manage. So I would love to hear your insights and your expertise on managing a project that over the years, 1,500 single family houses.
Yeah, the key is, it's true. Building a 100-unit apartment complex is significantly less manpower and faster than building 100 single family homes. And on the flip side, there are some simplicities in single family homes you don't have in apartments. So there's pros and cons. Mm-hmm. However, if I'm doing a 100 unit apartment complex, it's one loan, it's one contractor, it's one customer. I do 100 homes, it's 100 customers. It's all these lots of contractors. And so there is a distinct difference. I think the biggest key is, there's a book called Who Not How. Benjamin Hardy wrote it. Mm-hmm. The entire premise of the book is we focus so much on how are we going to accomplish something. Mm-hmm. And the premise of the book is really focus on the who. And that's what we've done. We've been very fortunate. We have some really talented people. I've got a VP of construction that he knows construction, and he has a whole team that they're experts at construction. I give the analogy every once in a while, somebody will say, hey, can you come help me lay tile or put a door in? And I say, well, I'm not sure if I'm best qualified, but I'd be happy to watch a YouTube video and learn how to hang a door for you and help you do that. They say, well, I thought you were in construction. I say, well, I'm kind of like the hospital administrator. If you have a heart attack, you probably don't want to talk to the hospital administrator. He probably knows how to do CPR because he's in a hospital, but you probably want to talk to the cardiologist. I'm the hospital administrator. I really don't know much about medicine. I know business. And so we have a construction team that they know construction. We have an accounting team. They know accounting. And so when you're getting started, you got to figure out how do you get the right who's around you that you can afford. And so make sure your accounting is in good shape, and that might be through a fractional team. Make sure you know these things, because it's about having the right people to execute on it, because there's no way I could do this by myself. I'm not an expert at accounting. I'm not an expert at construction, but we have experts here. Okay.
And when we were talking a little bit earlier, going through your bio, you said you had your first business at 7. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. I love that. That is interesting. And I would love to hear you talk about how, if there's any relation, which I'm sure, so it's assumptive, what's the relation on how that has helped you in real estate, understanding business?
I think there's always a lesson. When I started my first business, I raised pigs. Okay. And I would sell it. And so I'd say, hey, Jerome, nobody could say no to a 7 or 8 year old, right? And so I'd be like, do you enjoy pork? And most people say, yeah, I enjoy bacon. I enjoy a ham. You get the occasional, it's like, no. And they, well, hey, wouldn't it be nice if you had a variety in your freezer and you had a year's supply of it? And you're like, oh, yeah. And that was my first lesson of learning to get people to say, yeah. Say yes repeatedly. That's a sales tactic. And so I learned that, and then I said, okay, well, Jerome, you pay up half of it right now, and then I'll raise the pig. And when it's ready to process, you pay the other half. Well, I had figured out that I could buy the pig and all the food with half the money. So I didn't have to come up with any money. And then when it was done, you pay the other half. That would pay for the processing and my profit. So I never had a penny out of my pocket. And so you look at that and you say, well, what did I learn from that? Well, I learned how to get people to say yes. And I learned about how to grow something without having money. And, I learned about taking care of your customer. And so I learned all these lessons, and every business venture I've had, I learned these things. And we've had some successes. We had a big success that all of those things lent to a success we had back in, I think it was 2012. That was a multi-million-dollar real estate deal that really started at 7 years old. So it's just a matter of getting out there and doing things and getting these experiences and learning.
There's two sides to real estate, or there's not two, there's multiple, but there's two I want to address. There is the side of the business, running the business, right? Where, and then there's the passive side where you invest and you let other people kind of do it for you. And I find that most people, they want to get involved in real estate and they make a mistake of getting into the business side of it rather than to the investing side of it. What's your insight on that, especially because you have a syndication company, right? Hint, I want to hear you. What's your insight on those people that want to be involved in real estate, but don't maybe want to get involved in the business aspect of it?
Be a pro at what you do. So there's a lot of people that's like, oh, I want to get in real estate as a part-time thing. I'm really a great accountant. I'm really a great doctor. I'm really a great whatever, fill in the blank. And then I'm going to do real estate on the side. That'd be akin to, what is it that you do full time? And I say, well, I want to do that on the side. I want to be a part-time doctor. I want to be a part-time accountant. I want to be, that doesn't make any sense. So why would you get in real estate part-time? What are you going to do? We've got all this experience and you're going to jump in and say, well, I'm going to do part-time because there's so much risk. What happens when you didn't screen somebody and it's a rental and now all of a sudden it becomes a meth house? What happens when you didn't realize that you need to winterize certain things and now you got all this mess of things that are broken? And so I'm a big believer in being an expert at something. And if you want to be an expert at real estate, get in real estate and become an expert and make it your full-time career as soon as you can. If you're really good at being an accountant or being a doctor, or whatever it is that you're really good at, be really good at that and then invest in real estate through people that are the pros. I'm going to go to the pros for my real estate the same as I'm going to go to the best cardiologist when I have the heart attack and not go to the hospital administrator. And so make sure you're with the pros. And so if you want to be in real estate, figure out how to get in real estate. One of the things we love about our syndication is, you know what, you can invest in that and you can drive through the subdivision and you can see the homes and say, I have something to do with this. I could drive through on the weekend and see people that are looking at the houses. I could drive through in the middle of the day and I can see, all these workers that are building these houses. And I've invested in that. I'm part of that. That's really cool. That's exciting. And by day, I'm an expert at what I do. And now I've gotten involved. Now I can be part of real estate, make a difference in people's lives. However, I don't have to be the expert at real estate. I don't have to pay the dumb tax of all the things I have to learn.
Thank you for sharing that. Now this question is a little bit selfish because I like to figure out how I can serve my guests. So it's going to come to you in two ways. The first one is it's so I can serve you, as well as if somebody heard our podcast, they saw on YouTube or something like that, they could and they wanted to reach out to you, they can know how to reach out to you without just asking and just taking, right? You want to serve people. So The first question is how, and an example would be, the first question is, how can someone add immediate value to you or your business, Dale, personally or in business? And for me, an example might be, let's say in business, I might say, go like my last YouTube video with Dale, or I might say, oh, go purchase a copy of my book. That's like immediate value. Or I might say, go share this podcast episode, something like that. What is an immediate thing that someone can do to add value to you personally or your business?
There's three things we're really focused on. We're looking for investors, people that want to build wealth alongside of us. So going to centracapitalpartners.com, investing with us, that's something that we're constantly looking for. The other things, we're always looking for assets to buy. So if you've got an asset somewhere in the United States that's got a good value, we're interested in looking at that. And then the third, we always want to work with the best people. So we're looking for the best investors, the best assets, and the best people. And so if you offer a service that we can help each other, let's talk. Let's talk about that. And so those are really the focuses. We're looking for investors to help you build wealth together. We're looking for assets that have opportunities that we can improve on. And then we're looking for, whether it's employees or whether it's partners, we're always looking for new people to partner up with as we grow.
Okay. All right. The next question is very similar. You gave three answers, so you might get stopped.
Yeah, I cheat. I'm cheating, huh?
Maybe we'll see what happens, right? So the next one is, how can someone add long-term value to your business? So for me, an example, I might say, hey, I need a new coaching client, or hey, I need a new real estate deal, something like that. So how can someone add long-term value to you or your business? If you already answered it, just
I'd say we already answered it, because all of those are short-term and long-term.
okay.
We're looking for investors, and our objective is you have such a great experience investing with us that you'd have no reason to go anywhere else. That you
Okay.
now, people can invest their IRAs. And so you want to invest your IRA? Great. Invest your IRA, because you're not getting the 17 to 20% return we're giving in your IRA, generally speaking. So you can invest your IRA. And our goal is that we've taken such good care of you that you just keep saying, I'm going to reinvest. I'm going to reinvest. We find assets, and if I took care of you, you're going to bring me the next great asset. And, relationships are, it's not just about today, but how do we build relationships and work with the best people for the long term?
Okay, excellent. So let me ask you this then. How can someone get in touch with you or reach out and learning more? I know you mentioned the website, but let's just reiterate how they can get in touch with you to give you that value you're looking for.
From the investment side, Centra Capital Partners.com is a great way on the investment side to see what we're doing, learn about our investments, our history. All of that is a really great place. The other is if everything else, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and that's a great place to go. To Dale R. Wills on LinkedIn. It's a great place we can collaborate, we can connect, you can see other things that we've got going on. And those are really the two best places that we love to direct people.
Okay, Dale, what's your perspective on books and reading books?
Oh, I love books. I read 50 to 60 books a year. Now, I use that term loosely when I say read, because I'm probably 60, 70% listening to them, and 30 to 40% that I physically open a book and read it. But I'm a huge believer in reading. I want you to think about this. We've all heard the saying, you become the average of your 5 closest people. Well, a lot of people in real estate have big dreams. They have big aspirations. So if you think about, where do you want to be 20 years from now? Tell me, of those 5 people that are your closest to, how many of them are living that life? And if you say even one, I'm going to say your dreams aren't big enough. I challenge you, make bigger dreams. If one of your closest friends is living that life, your dream's probably not big enough. So make a bigger dream. But most people say 0. So what do you do about that? How do I fix that problem? If I've got big dreams, but my peer group isn't going the same direction, well, the way you solve it is through education, through listening to podcasts. This is a great example. You had a lot of really great guests that have a lot of dreams. Listen to podcasts, read books, and your podcast, your books, that becomes your peer group and helps elevate your thinking and see greater possibilities.
Thank you for sharing that. So one time I had a guest that traumatized me, like I was telling you in the green room. And he was like, I don't know, I don't really read books. So I had to check with you. And the reason why I check with you is because I want you to give us 3 book recommendations. So what are 3 books you recommend to the audience, and why?
It's hard to say, because I used to be a finisher. Every book I'd start, I would finish. And finally I was like, why do I have to be a finisher? There's so many books to read. Why not just read? If it's not speaking to me, move on. And then I've had books where somebody says, you should read this. I go look it up. I'm like, oh, I've started that book before. And then I read it. And the second time it speaks to me. And so it's just so important, because what speaks to me today might not have spoke to me a year ago. And to say, these are the best books. But I really like the book I referred to earlier, Who Not How by Benjamin Hardy. I really love the principles. There's a whole series, The Gap in the Game, Who Not How, and then 10X is easier than 2X. If you haven't read any of them, I'd read them in that order. Those are 3 really great books you put together. A friend of mine, Joe Polish, wrote a book, What's in It for Them. I really like that book. The whole premise is, if you take care of people that you're in contact with, what you're looking for will come eventually. But just take care of other people. What's in it for them? How do I meet Jerome's needs? How do I meet other people's needs? And that's the premise of the book. And I really like that. And then this will throw you off a little bit, not a business book. I really love the book Les Miserables.
Say it again.
Les Miserables. So there's
Okay.
a musical that's written on it. I'd recommend, if you never read it, read the abridged version. The unabridged version is very long and detailed. The abridged version is very long and not as detailed.
Okay.
But I love the book because it's basically about a man's journey. It's a fiction book, but it's about a man's journey of he steals a loaf of bread, and goes to prison for many years and then stays in longer. And then he goes around and he turns his life around and makes something special of his life and took care of people in that process. There's just so many moral stories we can take from that book. And that's just will always be one of my all-time favorites because of the moral lessons it teaches us. He owned a big business and he was the mayor of a town. And it wasn't just about being the mayor in a big business. It was about taking care of his people. I want to be really rich. And I think most people listening to real estate podcasts want to be really rich. There's no doubt about that. But how can I be really rich and elevate the people around me while I do it? That's really, I just love that principle.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to get us wrapped up again. How can we learn about Dale as well as your companies, your brands? How can we learn more about those things online?
Great place is CentraCapitalPartners.com and Dale R. Wills on LinkedIn.
Okay. And then if you could close us out with one word, no explanation, what word would that be?
Optimism.
Optimism. Dale, this has been excellent. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I'm going to get us wrapped up, close this down. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Absolutely. Thank you so much.